Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Premier Sim Gaming League's YouTube channel. Season 29 is now firmly underway. We've had some brilliant action. We had the PlayStation tiers underway on Thursday and Sunday. We also had the PC tiers underway on Wednesday and Thursday. We've already seen some fantastic action, and it is set to continue here at the Bahrain International Circuit for round one of the Premier Sim Gaming League's PSF4 tier here, and it should be a very good race indeed. My name is Jake Warrior. I'll be guiding you through the action this evening. My usual co-commentator for the season, Felix, it will not be here for the first 3 weeks, so it'll just be myself or any other reserve commentators that are available. We've got a 17-car grid tonight. Before we get stuck into the action in qualifying, we will quickly have a look at the teams and drivers who will be contesting this F4 championship. So, yeah, there we go. Right, so in the Red Bull for this season, we have TTG Trinity and Toxic Tomato. In the Mercedes, we have JR Latus and ET8 Gustav. In the McLaren, we have last season's F4 champion, TTG Noof, returning to defend his title. And alongside him is F1 Philip MD. In a Ferrari, we have Furhan Racer 2004 and MES Koala. In the Aston Martin, we've got FRL Ron M and Slimbo 02. In the Alfa Romeo, we've got TTG Ares and JX Tiramisu. In the Alpine, we've got Sync Shender and Ecos Shane VK. In the Williams, we've got Symbolix, and you can see we're currently on board of him just as he's beginning his lap. We'll go on board of him as he starts. And his teammate is Ecos Martine. At Haas, we've got DV19 and Gomel Jabraka. And then finally at AlphaTauri, we've got Rudy 1973 and LR Dawidek. We've already got a retirement in qualifying. That's Darag, and I'm not sure. I think it looks like he's lost it through turns at 6 and 7, it looks like. So yeah, look, you can see on the exit there, I wonder if he's just caught the curve a bit too much on those medium tyres, looking to get a banker lap in, and it's already gone horribly wrong for a reserve. Actually, he's one of the reserves that's stepping in tonight. Obviously you'll notice that some of the names I read out there you don't see here tonight. Those are the full-time drivers. We have got some reserves stepping in tonight. We've got 2 reserves in the Ferrari. Those are IFR Noah and Zarali 24. I think that's how you say that. Oh, Zarai, sorry, Zarai 24. And then, of course, just mentioned there in the Williams, I believe it is, or is it a Red Bull? I think it's a Williams. We've got IFRA Darag, who was already crashed out in qualifying, so not the start that he would have been looking for. That's for sure. Symbolix then, just about to set the opening lap time of the session. We'll keep an eye on what this will be. It's no invalidation so far, so this lap time's good stand. Gustav goes quickest on a 25.2, and Symbolix slots into second half a second slower. We've also got, it's like an Alfa Romeo, but he's invalidated. His teammate is just behind him though, and he is still pushing, so we'll see what Tiramisu can do across the line. Sync Rudy's got onto provisional pole now, and Tiramisu slots into P3. Nice opening lap time from the Alfa Romeo driver. Just getting a feel for the track conditions and just getting a feel for themselves around this track is probably the aim of this opening part of qualifying. In terms of a pole lap time, I'd say a mid-24 is probably the sort of pace I would expect these drivers to be doing. So if you can get into the mid-24s, you're in with a good chance of pole position, as Latus takes provisional pole now on a 1:25 flat, but still yet to break into the 1:24 margin. Let's follow Hamilton then, who just started his lap. Another one of the reserves, actually I forgot to mention, who's stepping in tonight. He's in the Williams, and Dara is in the Red Bull, so that's cleared that one up. And it's a good start to the lap. We'll see what the Williams driver can do. Obviously as a reserve it can be sometimes quite difficult stepping in, especially if it's last minute. You may be slightly unprepared, so I guess as a reserve you've just got to be ready for all circumstances, be ready to step in if you needed to. Oh, big snap of oversteer there through turn 7. That's something we're going to see quite commonly, I think, because that is a corner where you can easily lose the back end of a car. So I would not be surprised if we see a few accidents around there over the course of this session. Errors into the pits. Zarai is about to do his opening lap time. And of one of the reserves, we'll see what he does. He does a 25.5, which is good enough for P7 at the moment. Nice effort. Nice effort indeed. Let's switch to the Haas driver, DV19, who's just begun his opening lap time of qualifying now, heading through the first sector of this lap. A lot of overtaking spots here at this track, of course. You've got 3 DRS zones, and he's just gone through one of them now. We've got yellow flags in the far sector. I think that's just cars slowing down, no issues there. And there you go, through turns 6 and 7, so tricky to get this right, and then into this downhill braking zone, right-hander, turn 8. Again, the car struggles away for traction on the exit, but DV keeps it nicely under control. And then turns 9 and 10, we know how difficult that corner is to get right. It's you're braking all the way down, and it's so easy just to lock a wheel and run wide, and potentially screw off a few tenths off your fastest lap. As DV now heads around turn number 12. Again, another corner where we've seen accidents happen already this week in PSGL and some of the other tiers. So, oh, and he just went a bit too wide coming out of the turn 13, and he's invalidated his lap. So he will have to return to the pits and go again. Trinity, so it's pretty quiet out on track at the moment, which means that I've got a bit of time to quickly dive into the chat, see what yeah, someone commenting there's a lot of yellow flags. Yeah, it's just usually, more often than not, it's just people getting out of the way of drivers on a quick lap, and it brings out the yellow flags. It's a little bit irritating because you see it and you think something's happened out on track, but yeah, usually it's just cars on an out lap and just making sure they don't get in anybody's way. Of course, in PSGL, you're not allowed to give slipstream to your teammate or anybody else in qualifying, so that is a rule, so don't expect to see any toe giving between teammates. If so, they could be punished for that. Has DV gone for another lap, I wonder? I think he has. It might be worth a little look. Oh no, he's backed off it, so DV just backing off it for the time being. Let's go with Sync Rudy, who did a very good opening lap, and he's just warming up for his second time lap of the session. How big is the difference between a PS controller speed and a PC setup? It just depends on the driver, to be honest. It completely depends on the driver. You got Louis Welsh in the F2 PC tier, and he's still on the pad, and he's probably the fastest pad driver in the world. So ultimately, the wheel is quicker than the pad. I think that's safe to say, but you can still be very effective on the pad as well. There's no question about that. But Sync Rudy did a good opening lap time to put it into P2, so we'll follow his second lap time around. Of course, the Bahrain International Circuit, quite a popular one with the drivers. It's 17 races now as an F1 host venue, including that terrible 2010 endurance layout, which I hope they never ever revisit. Of course, it was kind of a track that people were sort of neither here nor there about until it got changed to a nighttime venue in 2014, I want to say. And then everyone suddenly loved it. It's definitely helped the track come alive, maybe down to the fact that obviously when it was set during the day, the temperatures were roasting, and ultimately it became a race of tyre wear rather than actual racing. Whereas obviously now it's a bit cooler at the night time, and tyre wear is less of an issue, and it has actually allowed this track to really shine as Sync Rudy goes too wide on the exit of turn 5, and that will ultimately bring an end to his latest effort. I think we've got Tiramisu on a lap we have, so we'll follow the Alfa Romeo driver around. He's a couple of attempts up through the opening sector of the lap. 3.36 mile circuit, of course, so 15 turns, 6 to the left, 9 to the right. It's a clockwise track, and like I said, it's usually just a very popular one now with fans and drivers alike, because you do see overtaking around here. It's not one of the tracks which is full of the leader, as Symbolix goes up into third, although not for very long, because Erez quickly dispatches of him and goes third himself. It's all closing up at the front. What can Tiramisu do across the line? He now goes up to third, makes it Alfa Romeo 3-4 provisionally on the grid, and that's a nice lap indeed. Latus has just started his lap, so I want to see. We've got Sink Schender here, currently in P6 in the Alpine. Carver looks absolutely spectacular in these nighttime conditions, I have to say. And how's his lap time looking? He's a 10th up so far, as Rod M goes up into P4, splits the two Alfa Romeos in his Aston Martin. And Erez now coming up to, Schender rather, coming up to the line in the Alpine. He's currently in P7, but if he can just maintain the margin that he's gained so far, he should improve, and he does up to 5th. It's incredibly close. From 3rd down to 7th, as Leicester's about half a tenth of a second. Dawidek's on a much improved lap, and this is going to be our first 1 minute 24 of qualifying. It's LR Dawidek who does a 1:24.7 to set the benchmark in qualifying, and I said that I expected pole to be in around the mid 24s, and that's more sort of towards the pace I was expecting, and it's the AlphaTauri driver that has kind of shown his hand first in that regard. Trinity's backed off his lap. Let's get an eye here on last season's F4 champion, TTG Noof. He hasn't really done a representative time as of yet, but he has now, and he moves himself up to P8. Joins at 125 fingers. JR Latus goes up to P2. Well, I think he actually was P2 anyway, but he's now joined Dawidek on a 24.7, so very close at the front. Dawidek had a free 10th margin, but not quite. And didn't have it for very long indeed. Let's follow DV around in the Haas. A few drivers experimented with medium tyres early in qualifying, but now everyone very much on the soft tyres, and I'm ready to very much put down their fastest laps of the sessions. So far it's a couple of AlphaTauris that are looking pretty strong right now. In 1st and 3rd, split by a Mercedes. What can DV do in the Haas? Yet to do a representative time. If you join late and you're wondering what happened to Derek, his qualifying session ended very early. A crash on the exit of turn 5 sent him into a wall and out of qualifying, so he'll have no choice but to start from the back of the grid. And DV then onto the main straight now, in turns 14 and 15 dealt with. This is going to be his first representative time of qualifying, and it's good enough to put him 3rd, a 24.8 from the Haas driver, and that's nicer done. 3 drivers now into the 1 minute 24s, and it's starting to hot up in this part of qualifying. Trinity's gone again for another lap, so we can follow him now through the difficult turn 12. Take too much of that inside curb and you're only going in one direction, and that's the wall. Trinity's on a much better lap here. I think he's going to perhaps be the 4th driver to go into the 1 minute 24s, depending on how he deals with this final sector of the lap. We shall see. Trinity's not a driver I've actually got any previous PSGL data for, as he invalidates around the final corner and has to pit. So pretty empty track now with 3.5 minutes to go. All the drivers will be in the pits gearing up for their final efforts, which is probably a good time for me to say a few drivers who I think will be ones to look out for this season. I mean, you can't discount TTG Noof, for reigning F4 champion. He didn't actually start the race in Bahrain last season, so we haven't really got any sort of guide as to how he does around this track, but across the entirety of season 28 he got 5 wins to his name and accumulated 107 points, which is a lot considering that PSGL, if you don't know, use a different point system to real life F1. You get 16 points for the win, you get 12 for second, 10 for third, and it goes 8, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 all the way down to 10th place, with an additional point available for the fastest lap, providing but it is set by someone who finishes in the top 10. So in total, 17 points available for the drivers, 29 points available for the teams, and it ultimately works out pretty nicely. It usually leads to some very close championships, and we end up with a lot of thrilling title deciders, while still giving the race winner an advantage in points over everybody else. Right, we've got the first few drivers out for their outlaps. I'm just going to try and see who is furthest along. We've got a Ferrari pretty close to starting a lap, so I'm going to believe that could be... It's going to be Zarai who's going to be the first driver. Start is like Tiramisu is out of qualifying. He looks like he's retired in the pit lane, so... bit of a strange one, that one. I wonder if he's maybe hoping that he starts in P11 or lower and he can get a fresh choice of tyres for the race. That could be a tactic he's thinking of. If that's the case, it's going to be very much fingers crossed at this point now and hoping that other drivers improve. But it's a big ask, you know. You've retired from session, you've taken a lot of risks there potentially, and maybe he didn't have enough time to go out again. I guess we'll maybe find out more after the race. So Zarai through the first sector of the lap. How's he looking? He's marginally up in the first sector, not by an awful lot though. And he's currently P14, so he'll want to find more time than that, that's for sure. Car behind him on a lap is Ron M, so keep an eye on how he's getting on as well. He's currently in P6, so expect that he may find some more time. A minute left in qualifying, and Zarai, let's follow then up now towards turn 11. This is a crucial part of the track. Don't worry about the yellow flags. I believe that'll just be... actually, I don't know. It could be... I think it's an AlphaTauri that's had some problems there. So one of the AlphaTauris won't be improving on their lap by the looks of it. Zarai is improving on his lap, but what does it do for him? I'm not sure it's going to really put him as high up as he would have hoped. Unless he can really nail his far sector. Missed the turn in a little bit and oversteer on the exit. It's been a scruffy end to the lap from Zarai, and it's only enough for 11th. He'll be a bit disappointed with that, I suspect. As Ron M across the line, he goes up to 4th on a 25.0. Good improvement from him. And we've got Noah coming around the final corner. He's not really improving on his lap either, and he opts to go into the pits. So now it's just about finding... Here we go. Latus. He invalidated, so he was on a quicker lap. It was Dewedek who had the issues. So here we go then. We've got Sync Rudy, and that's going to be an invalidation. Well, it's not, but I doubt he'll gain much time from that. Rudy then down to the final corner now. Got plenty of drivers behind, still on flying laps. Rudy does improve up to 4th. Used a bit of the off-track, it has to be said. Ares is also improving by a couple of attempts. What's that going to do for him? The redeck session's over, so pole position's there to be grabbed if anybody wants to get it. Ares goes up to 4th, not bad at all. And what about reigning champion? He's not going to improve, he's not on a better lap. Symbolix is not on a better lap either. Latus is retired from qualifying. Gustav is a 10th up. That's not going to do that much for him at the moment. Someone was saying Gustav for pole for sure, but it's not looking overly likely unless he can find a mammoth final sector. Goes there through turns 14 and 15. A little snap of oversteer, but he controlled it well. He's currently in P12, and this moves him up to 6th. It was a decent final sector. He does exactly the same time as Ron, but goes above him, so might be pretty happy with how that final sector unfolded. Ron improves at DV improves at the last, but it is only enough to stay 3rd. He doesn't quite have enough to deny Dewedek or Latus, who will start on the front row for the season opener. That is the end to qualifying then, and it's LR Dewedek who takes the opening pole position of the season, just 11 thousandths of a second clear of JR Latus, but DV was almightily close to spoiling their party there. In terms of Tiramisu, if he was hoping to start outside the top 10, it hasn't worked out. He's P8 still, and the reigning F4 champion TTG Noof can only manage 10th. He might be slightly disappointed with that. Philip, who we didn't really see much of throughout the qualifying session, he went 13th in the other McLaren towards the end. But it is Dewedek who's on pole position for Bahrain. But with how close it is, it's going to be a very interesting race, and expect to see a lot of twists and turns over the 29 laps. That's for sure. Strategy's a key thing here, of course. One stopper probably is the way to go, but you're looking at potentially stretching out a stint if you really want to make it work, especially if you start inside the top 10. So there you go then. That is the grid then. You got Dewedek latest on the front row, DV and Ares on row 2. You got Rudy and Gustav 5th and 6th, Ron in 7th, Tiramisu 8th, Sink Shender in 9th, it's Noof in 10th, Symbolix 11th, Zarai 12th, Philip 13th, Noah 14th, Hamilton 15th, and then the two Red Bulls of Trinity and Darragh not having a session they would have been hoping for. They'll be starting 16th and 17th respectively. And sort of one of the points I made earlier about how difficult it is for reserves to just jump in and be ready, it kind of demonstrates that in qualifying, because none of the reserves have really qualified that high up. When you look at it, I think all of them are outside the top 10, so it kind of shows really just it is difficult to just step in like that and immediately be effective. So any reserves that can get good results here tonight, it'll be very impressive indeed. Just looking at some of the drivers we've got this season, we've got a few drivers that have been promoted up from F6 last season. Now you got Philip, who was a champion in F6. Ares, who was 3rd in F6. He actually got 3 wins in a row at one point in the season, but then DNF'd at Bahrain, so mixed bag for him. And as for the pole sitter, Dewedek, he only actually managed to do one race last season. He's a reserve in F4 for just a one race, and he got 4th in that race, so not too bad at all, but maybe not much to suggest in the build-up to this that he would have taken pole position. But the question is now, can he convert that in the race? Predicting pit stop strategy there by the game. I wouldn't expect many 2 stops, although of course if there's safety cars that will impact on that for sure. But let's have a look then at tyres at those outside top 10. So yeah, not too many surprises there. So the top 10 of course locked in on the soft tyres that they qualified on. But everyone from 11th downwards is opting to start on mediums. So not too many surprises there. And we're underway on the formation lap then. I wonder how these drivers will be feeling ahead of this season opener. Obviously plenty of races ahead, but as a driver you always want to get off to the best possible start. And this is that opportunity to do so. Dewedek taking a pretty, I'd say quite a brisk formation lap up to now, but expect that he'll sort of bunch the field up towards the back end of it. And we're just moments away from lights out here. It's going to be interesting to see how those on medium tyres start. If you can gain any positions at the start on mediums, you're looking in good shape. Potentially later on in the race, and well, look, Dewedek just absolutely backed off there, but Latest has maybe been just ghosted past him. I'm ready to go on the grid. He might be waiting a while there. Latest, we'll see how that impacts his launch off the start. Maybe potentially some mind games already at play ahead of this race. Pole position takes his marks, and now it's just a case of waiting for the rest of the grid to line up. 17 cars preparing to do battle here in F4 around the Sakhir International Circuit. Here we go then. The lights are on, and when the lights go out, we'll be underway in F4 for season 29. It's lights out and away we go. Looks like a pretty even start actually. Dewedek got a much better launch though overall, and if anything it's DV that's having to defend from JR Latest down to turn 1. Dewedek is in the lead. DV looking to steal second from the Mercedes driver, which it looks like they're going side by side still. There's a yellow flag in sector 1. Looks like Ron M has had an issue in the Aston Martin, maybe a collision with Ares. Didn't unfortunately see that. They're continuing to go side by side through turn 5 now, and it looks like DV has taken that second place from Dewedek. No drivers out of the race, but there was definitely some contact further down the field. Dawidek has got the ideal start, but it's DV up to second. Rudy also up to fourth. And Tiramisu and Noof also with some good starts. But Shender, Ares and Ron have had some issues. And it might be worth looking further down to see if we've got any damage on these cars. It looks like they're recovering pretty well, but there is... I'd be shocked if they got away without damage there if they've come together. Whether it's contact, whether it's some side pod or rear wing damage, we'll have to see. But hopefully it won't affect them too much. But back at the front, Dawidek leads the way, while DV is in second. Some very good starts there from some of the lower end soft tyre runners, of course, taking advantage of some of the carnage that went off behind. And Gustav under a bit of pressure here in P5 from Tiramisu and Noof. And of course, it's going to be vital, really. There's a few gaps already opening up, and it's important, if you can, to try and stay within a second of a car in front. The last thing you want is to be defenceless without DRS. Well, look at this already. Gustav having to go defensive before the DRS has even become active, and there's a bit of contact there between the Alfa Romeo and the Mercedes. It might have not got away with that, we'll have to see, but it's given opportunity to Noof to try and make the move up to P6 on Tiramisu. He's going to have to go all the way around the outside turn 5, but look at that! Brave move from Tiramisu! And he makes contact with Gustav and he's spun round. It was a brave overtake from Tiramisu. Didn't quite get the best angle to see what sort of space had been left, but there is contact, and it's the Alfa Romeo driver that has lost out in dramatic circumstances. And of course, this is where the timing's gone a bit messed up, so not the easiest time to see what's happened, but an absolute disaster there for Tiramisu. And he'll have to try and recover. I don't think there'll be all too much damage. That's the one good thing. It was more wheel-to-wheel contact that sent the car spinning. But it's still not ideal after a pretty solid start. And you can see here Gustav has kind of lost touch with the top four. And he's starting to create a little bit of a train here, with Noof still right up behind him. And you can see there, I'm just looking at the gaps, you can see Dawidek is pulling away nicely at the front, and DV unable to stay with him, and that's going to put him under threat from latest when they cross the line. So Dawidek with some really strong pace at the moment. And what can Noof do? This is not the best view, but here he goes. He's going to go alongside that, up the inside into turn 1. Can he make the move stick on Gustav? Yes, he can, but Gustav fighting back on the exit. Who's going to get DRS down this next straight? That is the key. And it looks like it is Gustav that might have it. And that's enabled him to stay in front. But you can see the train of cars where this is causing behind him. And yeah, top 4 right now in a bit of a dream world. Because there's Naziel fighting sector 1. And we've got Zarai is out of the race. So we have a retirement, and that's brought out the virtual safety car. Not a full safety car, but we've got a virtual safety car. The Ferrari of Zarai. Trying to see where it is on the map. It looks like it's on the exit of turn 5 is where he's gone off. But disaster for one of our reserve drivers, and that is an end to his race. It's a virtual safety car, which he's not going to use in a way for Gustav, because it of course means the gap should still be there in front of him. So let's have a look then. Let's have a look at the positions gained while the virtual safety car's out. So looking at some real big gains there. Trinity up 7, Noah up 6. And then you got Noof and Simblix up 4. We've got some big position gainers there. And then of course the big move at the front, you have to say, was DV making the move on latest for P2. As we wait to get back underway here. Let's get with the battle. Oh, and we got a drive-through penalty for speeding under the virtual safety car for Hamilton. And that's going to be a killer blow for him after a pretty decent start. But here goes latest up the inside for second, and Rudy's going to try and take advantage as well. They're almost going 3 wide here up towards turn 2. That's incredible action there. And look at this, through the exit now up towards turn 5, and it looks like latest has got the position. Is he going to try and fight back DV? No, he's not. He's not quite close enough. He's still having to defend from the AlphaTauri behind him. As further down, we've got a change in position as Noof gets past Gustav for P5. So crucial move there as well. But you can see all this fighting that's going off behind is just helping. And we've got a crash. We've got a crash. Darragh has gone round. Looks like he's just recovered. It's again, I think it's turn 5 again, which is weird because I thought turns 6 and 7 would be the kind of main issue, but it seems like the exit of turn 5 is catching out a few of these drivers. Nevertheless, though, look at that. Dewey's got a 3-second lead out front. DV still pretty close to latest, so this battle's far from over yet. And then you got Rudy, and it'll be interesting to see now if Noof, now he's cleared Gustav, if he can start to eat into this advantage that this next group of cars has built out. A couple of 2.5 seconds, which doesn't sound like a lot, I know, but when you've got such a closely matched field of cars, it's very difficult to claw back that sort of gap, particularly when these cars in this group all have DRS. But we'll see what Noof can do. He's already starting to pull a few temps back, and Gustav cannot live with that pace right now. In fact, if anything, Gustav might start coming under threat from some of the medium tyre runners, including Symbolix and Noah, so he's got to keep an eye on that one for sure. Still Latus staying pretty close. Also, DV staying pretty close to the back of Latus in the Haas. We've got Gustav. Here we go then. So Symbolix making the move on Gustav, and is Gustav about to lose another place? He's trying to keep his nose in there, but there's not really enough space as he go through turn 7. He's looking this way and that for a way back through, but he's lost yet another position, and Symbolix on those medium tyres up to P6, and Gustav just looking like he can't wait to get shut of those soft tyres, because right now he just seems to be falling backwards in this race, and he's now got Noah and potentially Trinity to deal with as well. So things not going the Mercedes driver's way at this early stage of the race. Maybe a change of tyres will help him out when the pit stop window opens. But right now he's just going to have more defending to do, and you can see the slide he had there through turn 13, and that's going to allow Noah to have a massive opportunity. Gustav will still have DRS off of Williams in front, but that might not be enough for him to defend. He's just got no pace, it would seem, right now. We've got a yellow flag in sector 3. Ares has gone off, that looks like. And we've got another virtual safety car. We have another virtual safety car, Ares. Let's have a look. This is a terrible angle, but it looks like, yeah, Ares is minus a front wing. So damage on that Alfa Romeo. I don't know if it was contact with another driver, but either way, that's a pit for him. Hamilton has chosen this opportunity to serve his 5-second penalty, so that's not actually bad for Hamilton. He's managed to serve his VSC speeding penalty under another VSC, so that has ultimately helped him out and minimised his time loss. He's got onto another set of soft tyres though, and he's got another penalty for speeding under a VSC. So just as I said, he used the opportunity to serve his penalty. He's gone and got another one, so that's not too ideal at all. Back at the front end, Dawidek just continues to streak clear. 4-second advantage that he has now got over this chasing group of cars. Rudy looking pretty strong in 4th at the moment, looking like he wants to try and get past the Haas. And look at that, I just noticed, yeah, so you got TTG Noof, and he has massively caught up to this group of cars. So I don't know if this group here was a little slow under the VSC, or if Noof has had a good lap somewhere. But Noof now right there, and he's now making this a 4-car battle for P2. So this is really hotting up in this sort of second group of cars, and nothing they can do about the leader at the moment, but of course still an awful long way to go. We're only on lap 7, and you can see DV ducking out the slipstream, reminding Latus that he's there. Probably didn't need the reminder, but nevertheless he gave it to the Mercedes. But if anything, he's had a bit of a struggle, poor exit. Let's go on board with DV, just see how these cars are handling, and Hamilton has decided enough is enough and has retired in the pit lane after his various VSC penalties. So not the race he would have hoped for, but we're on lap 7 now. This is sort of getting towards pit stop territory for these soft tyre runners, and I wouldn't be at all surprised if we start seeing some soft tyre runners into the pits. This is a sort of time though when they might start to struggle with the cars a bit, so keep an eye on that as DV takes a bit too much of the outside curb on turn in and loses a bit of time, and this is going to give Sync Rudy potentially an opportunity into turn 11, but he's not quite close enough on this occasion. But Rudy looking very menacing behind the Haas right now. Of Of course, Rudy, in terms of his pit stop, he's got to think about his teammate who's leading this race, of course. He can't pit on the same lap. So got to be careful about him. Dawidek doesn't really need to worry about protecting from an undercut. No one's coming into the pits just yet. A little surprising. I thought we might see someone come in. Oh, there we go. We've got Gustav. So Gustav in the pits, and Latus is under threat from DV, who goes down the inside at turn 1, but he's gone back for the switchback, and now there's going to be interesting. DRS up the hill towards the next turn. I want to go on board with Latus, but if anything, he's under pressure from Sync Rudy. Here we go then. Rudy round the outside of a Mercedes, squeezing, but Rudy keeps his foot in there, and I've got to say, that's a sensational overtake from Sync Rudy. Both drivers giving each other as little room as they could get away with, but Rudy was not tempted to back out. He kept his foot in there, and he takes P3 brilliantly from the Mercedes driver. So a bit of a disaster from Latus, drops from 2nd to 4th in the space of half a lap, and he could potentially be under threat from McLaren as well if he's not too careful. But again, all that's doing is just allowing the AlphaTauri driver up front to keep building that gap. I don't think he could have imagined a better first stint than the one he's had so far. We've got Trinity and Noah battling further down on those medium tyres. Those medium tyre runners could definitely come into play later on, that's for sure. They'll be on better tyres towards the end of a Grand Prix, and have not been entirely dropped by some of this group. Let's have a look at Trinity then. Looks like he's very much wanting to get past Noah. Is he going to have a look into turn 14? No, he's not. He's got to be wary of Philip just behind him as well. This is going to be an immense battle as we've got DV into the pits. So the first of the leading group have come into the pits now in the Haas. And there you go, look, right, easy move with the DRS. And it could be Philip's turn to take advantage as well. Is Noah going to lose 2 positions in one go? It looks like he is. There's nothing he can do to defend. Philip's and Trinity just got a bit more pace at this stint of the race, and they've taken the places. Noah drops 2 places, but he's not giving up on this. He's fighting back down the inside into turn 5, but surely the outside line is going to give him McLaren better grip. But they continue this side-by-side scrap up to turn 6 and 7. Is either driver going to back out? It doesn't look like it. Up to turn 8, Philip does get the move done, but that was incredible racing there. Tricky enough corners when you haven't got somebody alongside you. Even more tricky when you have. And they made it through unscathed, but Noah, bad news for him, he's lost another place. And he's just dropping. He's got no car immediately as a threat behind him, so that's one bit of good news. And DV's rejoined in P12. Nice bit of clear air for the Mercedes driver, but it'll be interesting to see if the undercuts would be that effective, considering that he is on hard tyres. What's Dawidek going to do here? I don't know if the AlphaTauri drivers are in any sort of contact. Dawidek carries on. I suppose I don't really blame him. But so does his teammate. So they are stretching out this soft tyre stint a bit longer than I expected. We're on to lap 10 now. And neither AlphaTauri has come into the pits as of yet. So they want to stretch out this stint as long as they can get away with. And that means one of the AlphaTauri drivers won't be in until the end of lap 11. At the earliest. Let's look further down. We got Noof once again just right behind Latus. Exactly where he needs to be. He's done a really good job on that first stint, because after qualifying 10th, he would have been disappointed, but he'll find himself now in the group where he wants to be. Our reigning F4 champ, and he's just quietly sticking back there at the moment. Darragh gets a penalty for multiple warnings. We've got Trinity now. Looks like he's got a lot of pace right now on those medium tyres. He's caught up to the Williams Symbolics, and he's going to try and make a move pretty soon. See if he can make his way up into 5th place rather. He's looking very quick at this stage, it has to be said. You can't deny that. He's already made his move past Noah recently, and he wants to get another place. Philip just not able to quite live with a Red Bull's pace right now. What have we got going on then? Dawidek continues again. Surely we're going to see Rudy in at the end of this lap. Yes, we are, and it looks like Latus and Noof. Oh, Noof carries on. So Noof carries on, but we've got Rudy and Latus in at the same time. As there you go, that's the move I was talking about. Trinity with the DRS down the pit straight. And even before they got to turn 1, he's made the move stick. Nothing really that Simblix could do. It's just, I think it's pretty fair to say right now, Trinity's just a quicker, happier driver on this set of tyres. Well, this is going to be the key here. So yeah, DV is, wow, DV has jumped Rudy and Latest by a couple of seconds, so the undercut has worked pretty well, as you see Darragh losing the back end of the car and having to go off the road on the exit of 4, sorry. So that's not ideal at all. And maybe just struggling a bit on the set of tyres, but he tried to fend off the Haas of DV, but there was ultimately nothing he could do in the end. And Rudy and Latest can sort of continue their battle on the track due to them pitting at the same time. No one's really gained out of a pit stop phase right now. Following the cars now down the back straight, of course, another straight where they will have the DRS activated. Rudy and Latest just trying to get the hammer down now as Dewedek pits, and I expect to see Noof in at the same time. And that's good news for him because he releases a big group of medium runners that were just starting to catch up to him as his tyres went off. Dewedek should still maintain the lead of this Grand Prix, but it will be interesting to see just how much DV has caught up to him. Dewedek, well, this is a good thing for Dewedek and Noof because they've extended their hard tyre stint. They can now go, their soft tyre stint rather, they can now go onto the medium compound tyres, and that gives them an advantage over DV ultimately. But look, you can see there, DV only just over a second away from the race leader. He was about 5 seconds behind at one stage, so that just shows the difference that undercut's made. But surely now on medium tyres, Dewedek's going to be very, very quick indeed. And Rudy is having a bit of an issue here because he's got Darragh, who's on a completely different strategy to him, kind of in the way at the moment, and it's going to allow Latest potentially to have an opportunity to try and get the move done. Back on the AlphaTauri, who of course gained the position on him earlier on. So Trinity now leads. Of course, top 5 have yet to pit. Ron is still out there on his soft tyres. Of course, he had that early spin, which is why he's quite cut adrift in terms of where the medium tyre runners are. But nevertheless, I suppose Ron thinking I might as well go on to mediums and hopefully be able to do some overtaking in the latter half of this race. And look at this is really costing Rudy and Latest a bit of time here. And they've got Noof quickly approaching as well. So ultimately Noof managed to do an extra lap, and it hasn't really cost him, as Latest had to be careful there, nearly ran into the back of the AlphaTauri driver. Surely here, this is where it's going to be quite a simple move for the AlphaTauri driver on the Red Bull. Not something you see every day in real life F1. But yeah, no real reason for Darragh to fight that. And Latest trying to join him, trying to follow him through, and it's resulted in a spin for Darragh. I don't know if there was contact between the pair of them or not, but Darragh has spun, and Latest gets the move done, but he's going to then lose out to Noof, is he? Look how close they are through turn 5. Absolutely sensational stuff now through turns 6 and 7, but it looks like Latest has held on to the position. He lost some time. Obviously, there was either some contact with Darragh, or he got caught up in Darragh's spin, if you like. I'm not too sure, but either way, it's given Rudy a bit of breathing space and has put Noof really very much on the attack against the driver. And look at that, who's that mistake by? Is that Rudy making a mistake? It is. So Rudy went wide there, it looks like, and he's lost out to Noof, so he must have had a moment there through the corner, and Rudy loses out to both Latest and Noof, so all the advantage that the AlphaTauri gained, he's now lost with that moment out of turn 10. And, oh, he'll be absolutely fuming inside that cockpit because he really has thrown away a decent margin that he had over the pair of them, and he's now kind of stuck where he was before. But look at Noof here. This is probably why he was so successful in F4 last season. He's just quietly going about his business and just gaining positions here and there when he can without doing anything too dramatic. This could be dramatic though. Move on Latest down the inside into turn 1, and and look at that, he got Rudy trying to follow him through. That would have been a brave move indeed. Noof gets the move done on Latest. Rudy has to back out of it. Noof up to 7th, what is provisionally P3. Well, what is P3 on the road once all the pit stops are out of the way. And Noof from 10th on the grid is doing a superb job fighting his way through the field. And next up will be DV, of course, who's on those hard tyres. And you expect that the medium tyres will have a good advantage at the moment. So expect for them to start clawing in the Haas driver, especially at this stage while the mediums are still fresh. The estimated sort of lap time margin between the mediums and the hards is 0.6 of a second a lap. So you expect DV's to have his mirrors full of McLaren and Mercedes pretty shortly. Let's follow what's going on then towards Gustav. It hasn't really worked out for him, that early stop. He's just kind of stuck there behind Tiramisu at the moment. And he's got Ron behind him, who has done a pretty good job, I have to say, on his soft tyres. And it suggests that when some of these medium tyre runners come in, like Trinity and Symbolix, they're going to be very, very competitive here, potentially on a set of soft tyres, which we know will be super quick, particularly in the first sort of 5-6 laps. So we're just over half distance here at the Bahrain International Circuit. F4 back and back for a bang, it has to be said. So far, some very good action that we've seen through the field. And now it's a case of these medium tyre runners, just what they can do in terms of their strategy and where they come out in relation to some of these top guys. The Wedex still with a comfortable 4.5 second advantage as Philip gets a penalty. That could be crucial. Any corner cutting penalties picked up around here can be really costly, especially if we get a late safety car, which is definitely not out of question. We've already seen it in PSGL already this week. I believe it was F10 or I believe it was F11 actually, but sort of a late safety car. And you know, it was pretty much a sprint to the end. But if you've got penalties, then it just adds to your problems. Tiramisu's left the session, so he's disconnected, and that's going to cost him quite majorly here. He's going to lose some positions to Gustav and Ron before he has a chance to rejoin. So that's an unlucky blowout for the Alfa Romeo driver. No fault of his own, but he's going to drop down a few positions as we've got Noof in position to attack, and there's nothing really that DV can do. Noof on those medium tyres, taking advantage of it and moving into what is P2 right now when all things shake out. He's the nearest challenger to the Wiedek. And, well, what a drive from Noof so far. From 10th to 2nd on the road. Well, a 10th to 2nd provisionally at least. And you've just got to say he's done an excellent job of threading his way through. And showing what made him champion last season. He's got a 4.7 second gap to the Wiedek, but he won't be too fussed about that at this current stage. It's just a case of getting his head down, trying to pull away from DV before DV gets potentially overtaken by 2 cars behind, which is, you would imagine, is a big possibility. Let's go on board then with Latus in the Mercedes then. Just going to have a quick look as well in terms of gap to the leader. I want to see. Right, so as it stands right now, it's a 22.5 second pit lane here, so they're going to actually feed out the lead, the sort of Trinity Symbolix guys. They're going to feed out in a big gap between Rudy and Darragh, and that's pretty good, to be honest, for them. That's really good, and then they can go and attack against this group of cars that we're watching now later on. So this is shaping up really nicely here with the 2 different strategies colliding. And, well, Trinity and Symbolix have just got to keep doing what they're doing at the moment because their pace is solid. And it's bringing them right into play for a good result later on. And, yeah, keep an eye on those 2 because on the soft tyres at the end, they are going to be super quick, super racy, and they are going to look to gain as many positions as they can. Another problem here for Latus is he just is unable at the moment, at least, to sort of do anything about DV, who's still staying within the DRS range of Noob. So I don't know if he can go any quicker right now, but if he can, then this is not doing him any good whatsoever. There's nothing you can do. We've got Darragh. We've got a yellow flag in the sector. And Darragh has had a spin. It looks like on turn 7 he's got no front wing by the looks of it as well. Bitter blow. We've got a virtual safety car for the 3rd time this race. No full safety cars, but that is our 3rd virtual safety car. Darragh is minus a front wing. And I mentioned earlier about how difficult it is to step in as a reserve. Well, I think we've had 4 reserves step in tonight. 2 of them have already retired. Wouldn't be surprised if Darragh does the same potentially. And this, of course, means that Trinity and Symbolix can make pit stops under the virtual safety car, put soft tyres on, they lose less time. This has worked out brilliantly for these guys on the medium tyres. The Wiedek goes past it in the lead, but they're going to lose so little time compared to what they could have lost. Where's Trinity going to feed out here? He's still going to be behind the guys that he would have been behind, but instead of being, what, about 6-7 seconds behind them, he's going to be right there with him. He's only going to be a second or 2 behind. This is absolutely brilliant for the Red Bull driver. And he's got a superb chance here to really attack these guys in front now and get a very good result. That virtual safety car could not have been better timing. Darragh is indeed out of the race. He retires in the pit lane. So not the result he would have wanted. You got Sink Shender also in the pits for soft tyres. He hasn't had the race he'd have been hoping for either. Qualified pretty well, but race has just gone badly for one reason or another. Not too sure as to why. But look at that. Look how close Trinity is. He's only 1 second behind Rudy. He should have been about 6-7 seconds behind. So in theory, that virtual safety car has gained the Red Bull driver and, of course, Symbolix and a few others behind him. It's gained them effectively around 6-7 seconds on this group of cars. All of a sudden, this is huge problems for Noof, DV, Latus and Rudy, because they've got cars behind them on much better tyres, and they're going to have to start looking in their mirrors because they're going to be under significant threat now. Let's go on board with Trinity and just see how his soft tyres are behaving. You can tell already just how much quicker he is, and he's got a lot of ERS saved, which further adds to these guys' issues. We've got a yellow flag in sector 3. What's that all about? Oh, Noof! Noof is out of a race! Has he lost it round the final corner? It looks like he has. Let's see if I can catch this on board with Ron. It looks, yeah, you can see out of turn 15, Noof has lost it on the curb and has gone sliding into the opposite barrier. And just as I was praising last season's F4 champion, his race goes up in smoke. He's backwards into the wall, minus his wheel. And that is the end of his race. And surprisingly, no safety car, because that's in quite a dangerous part of the track. But no, the race over for the McLaren driver. And the last season's champion, he didn't start the season 28 race at Bahrain. Well, it's going to be a DNF in season 29. It's a no-point score for the reigning champion, and not the start of the season that he would have wanted. I don't know if there was contact between him and Trinity. Well, actually, no, there wouldn't have been, because, of course, Noof was at the lead of this group, so no contact there. Trinity has already made his way past Rudy, and you can see now he's over the back of DV. Is he going to try and move? No, not quite close enough into 11. But look at this. Is he going to try the outside of turn 12? This is brave. This is exceptionally brave. And he's done it. Has he? No late braking manoeuvre. But then he gets a switch back up and under. It's wide for the Haas driver. And there's nothing he can do. Trinity with some brave stuff there. Right round the outside. And then cut it back to the inside. DV did everything he could. But couldn't stop Trinity, who is now up to third. And is now setting about grabbing second off Latus. He's absolutely flying in the Red Bull. Here we go. Straight away DRS. He doesn't need any time to think about it. Latus can't defend it. There's just nothing he can do. He's got such better tyres at this stage of the race. And Trinity up into P2. And what a stunning drive it's been from him. Of course he was helped by the virtual safety car. But nevertheless, he's really made that strategy pay off beautifully. And the pain for these guys on the mediums and hards isn't over yet, because you've got Symbolix and Philip and Noah also gaining on them quite quickly as well, so their pain is far from over. Dewedek's got a 5.7 second lead over Trinity right now, so he's looking alright still, because the soft tyres won't be great forever. That's the key here, and of course Trinity did have to pit probably a lap or two earlier than he would have planned, just because obviously it meant he could do it under the VSC and he'd lose less time, but he will have to nurse those soft tyres somewhat over the final couple of laps. That there is no doubt. So But nevertheless, what a performance from Trinity, and he's really, you can see he's already got Latest out of his DRS range, and the driver I'm now keeping an eye on is Symbolix, because he's in the same boat as Trinity, and he will look to take advantage as well. Disaster for Noof. I am gutted for him in a sense, because, you know, it's such a good performance at that point. I'm not even going to lie to you, he would have been in my running for driver of the day come the end of a race if he'd have held on to that, but sadly that's motorsport. It can be both great and heartbreaking all at the same time, and that's sadly what it was there for him. You can see, just look at the way Trinity's eating into Dewedek's gap. We've got to move further down the field. It's Ron and Gustav battling on mediums and hards, and Ron making good use of the fact that he did a longer soft tyre stint. He's putting those mediums now to good use, and he's up to P9. And it's a good recovery after what was a difficult start, as Latest gets a penalty. That's going to be critical for his race with so many cars close to him. Just getting that 3 seconds is going to cost him dear. It's not what he needed at all. Symbolix is right there now with Rudy. Symbolix goes to the inside. I don't think Rudy's really going to fight this one too much. He's not. He's taking quite a sensible approach here as the AlphaTauri driver. He recognises that this is not a fight worth fighting at the moment. Symbolix on much better tyres. Oh, we got the Alpha Tune. Sink Shender. Sink Shender is out of the race. Looks like he's lost it through turn 7. That was a spot where we expected more crashes this evening, and it's where we've now got one. The Alpine driver becomes our 5th retirement of a race. No safety car again. Looks like the game just doesn't want to put out a safety car at the moment. We've had 3 virtual ones, but still no actual safety car. And now back with Symbolix, who is right behind DV now. And he's just going to try and cut his way through this sort of field of cars as quickly as he can. Sort of similar to what Trinity did, if he can. So we've got 5 retirements now. The only reserve, like I said, the only reserve who's still going is Noah. He's doing a good job actually. Noah is in 8th place at the moment, and he potentially could also find himself on this back of his train pretty shortly. Check for leader ERS. Yep, no problem. Dewedek's at 44% at the moment. You look at the cars around him, it's kind of similar. DV struggling a little bit, as is Symbolix. So Dewedek's kind of got the same ERS as the cars around him, so he's, you know, he's not using up masses amount of ERS to pull away. He's just doing a solid job, and you can see Trinity still gaining a bit, but also the soft tyres maybe not quite giving him what they were maybe a lap or 2 ago. So Dewedek's still in a strong position right now. Trinity though still very much a threat. Gap now under 3 seconds at the front. Symbolix, is he going to be in a good position here to get past the hash? You can see already DV felt the need to try and go defensive. What's going to happen here as we get towards turn 1? It could be 3 wide. We've got yellow flag in sector 2, but I'm not worried about that right now because we've got Symbolix down the inside into turn 1. And look at that, 2 positions lost for Latest, who tries to come back. They're going to be 3 wide and Symbolix has to back out. And DV actually gets the position, but they're going to continue going 3 wide. Look at that aggressive move across the track from DV. I wasn't sure about that, but there we go. Symbolix around the outside. He's been pushed wide, and now Latest will get the position back again, but Symbolix much braver into turn 6 and 7, and it's Symbolix that takes P3. But wow, that was quite something. Philip and Rudy doing battle further behind as well, and Philip with a better traction on those soft tyres making his way up to P6. But wow, Symbolix had to fight for that one. Latest and DV did not want to give that up, and we've got a problem there. Looks like Ron's had an issue. Yeah, just recovering, looks like, from a turn 7 spin. Oh, look at that, Philip just gets his way past DV. Only caught the latter end of that, but it looks like maybe there's a bit of contact, but nevertheless, Philip up to 5th, DV dropping to 6th. And despite some aggressive defending attempts from him, he's it has to be said, he's dropping down positions despite that. But I suppose you got to credit him for at least trying to keep hold of those positions if you can. What can Philip do here against Latest? So you can see here the soft tyre runners really know just can't keep up at the moment, and he's got a penalty to boot as well, but still some good points coming in for the reserve driver if he can hold on to it. Davidek's gap at the front, I tell you what, Trinity has not given this up yet. 1.6 seconds here. Davidek's not safe yet, just in the lead. He's pretty safe in terms of like P2 because the gap behind's quite big now thanks to all the battling that we saw as Philip nearly runs into the back of Latest through turn 8. And now up the hill they go. Trinity for the win could very well happen, but we'll keep an eye right now on the battles that are going on. Keep an eye on the gap, of course, at front. And it looks like Philip is still in a good position with those tyres and putting the pressure on the Merc driver. And there we go, and he's using some of his ERS. He's barely got any left, to be fair, so is he going to look to make a move here? This would be quite a rare move round the penultimate corner. Didn't see that one coming. Latest didn't see it coming either. And Philip gets the position up to 4th. Not seen many moves there, but the problem now, of course, is he might come under threat coming up to the first corner. But Philip still has the DRS because when they went past the activation point, he was actually behind Latest. So a double whammy there for the Mercedes driver. And Philip takes P4. But look at the gap now between the leaders. It's hovering around that second mark. Trinity is nearly within the DRS zone of Davidek. So it could be very much a keep an eye on things happening at front. Rudy's past DV, so DV just struggling on those hard tyres. Now drops to 7th place. So another change in position there. Tiramisu gets a penalty as well. That could cost him because the gap between him and Ron just over 3 seconds right now for that final point. Despite both Alfa Romeos still being in the race, it's fair to say that not really looking like scoring many points here today. Let's look, here we go. This is the battle that we all want to see. The battle for the lead. Trinity desperately trying to get within the DRS of our race leader, the pole, Davidek, who took pole position and has led comfortably from the start. But a virtual safety car timed at the perfect point allowed Trinity to pit in for soft tyres and lose less time on the alternate strategy, and it's now put him within touching distance of what up to now has been the unthreatened race leader. And he's got DRS for the first time, so Davidek's going to be feeling the pressure right now. Ron gets a penalty, that's going to cost him points, I feel. And look at this Philip. Look at this Philip behind us, got past Symbolic. So Philip, both drivers on the same strategy, but Philip with a bit more pace right now and moves past the Williams driver up into P3, but does have a penalty, of course, so that will impact his end result. But Symbolic doesn't care about that. He's going to try and fight back. But with right on the outside, Philip goes with a superior traction. He gets P3, and honestly, if I was Symbolic, it's probably not worth fighting this one. Just try and steer with him, use the DRS to fend off any late charges from behind, and then, of course, you'll get him at the end on penalties, so that might be the way to go there. But look, Trinity 4 tenths behind Davidek. There's no doubt about it. This battle for the lead is very much on. Trinity has done a superb job on her softs now, and it's very much game on as to who will take the race win here tonight. How close they are with the AlphaTauri and the Red Bull drivers. Super close here, and Trinity's going to be in a great position to take the lead come the end of turn 1. As long as he gets his exit out of 14 and 15 just right, he's going to be in a great spot to take the race lead. And Davidek, who up to now has been unchallenged, is going to come under serious threat here. Is there anything he can do to stop the Red Bull driver? It doesn't look like we got a yellow flag further down. Phillips had an off at turn 15, same as his teammate, but Trinity is into the lead. Nothing Davidek could do. Philip further behind has had an issue. Is he going to have to come into the pits? No, he's not. It looks like he's had a spin coming out the final corner, so Philip's hard work all undone, and both McLarens going off at the final turn. One for Newfit resulted in a retirement. For Philip, it's resulted in a loss of 6 places. Oh, McLaren will not be loving that on the sidelines. Zach Brown with his head in his hands, but it's Trinity. What an incredible drive from him. And he takes the lead from Davidek for pole. just didn't have the answer on those medium tyres. Is there anything he can do in the final 2.5 laps to try and rescue this one back again? He's still in the DRS range of Trinity. He'll be hoping that Trinity just maybe starts to lose his soft tyres, but let's bear in mind here, I don't think Dawidek's mediums will be feeling particularly great at this stage either, albeit they are newer than some of the drivers behind him. Dawidek must be feeling a bit gutted. He's done nothing wrong in this race, but a slight bit of luck for Trinity under virtual safety car and some incredible soft tyre pace from the Red Bull driver has ultimately put him in the lead of this race, and Dawidek just doesn't look like he's got the pace to fight back again. Meanwhile, Simbalix has got the opposite problem. Simbalix has got the opposite problem. There is no doubt about it. He isn't as quick on the soft tyres, and he's now going to come under threat from Latus, and he goes defensive there, but Simbalix has nothing he can do. Latus has got the overspeed, DRS too powerful, and Latus takes third place. But of course, again, kind of similar situation to Philip in that Simbalix will know that Latus has a time penalty, so it's not one he needs to overly fight right now. You got Rudy and DV still in the background. Philip down to 8th. He'll be gutted at that one. Let's just check penalties. Yeah, everyone's on 3 seconds apart from Ayres is on 9, but he's also quite a way behind, so it's not going to have too much bearing on his result. I'm going to keep an eye on this battle for the lead because Dawidek is desperately trying to keep within the DRS. He's absolutely pushing everything for it. He's got a little bit more ERS saved, has Dawidek, so this might not be over just yet. You know, he's not giving this up, and credit to him. Trinity is going to have a difficult final lap potentially. It all depends on how close the pole can get. But we've got to say fair play to Trinity. Let's have a quick look at this. I want to see actually. Look at that, up 15 places. He qualified in 16th. Oh, we've got a yellow flag, and that is Noah, who's had an issue through turn 12, and he's lost a position to Philip. So that's a battle further down. Dawidek trying to get into the slipstream of Trinity. He's getting closer, but he's not close enough as they head down to turn 1. And Dawidek has to remain behind and didn't get a particularly strong exit onto the second DRS zone either. So that hasn't really helped him out, and he may now be relying on a mistake if he's going to take this win. Noah into the pits, so doesn't look like any reserve's going to score tonight. A disaster for Noah. He'll be absolutely fuming that he's thrown away a points finish on the final lap, or on the penultimate lap rather. Typical turn 12 error, I would suggest, even though I haven't actually seen it, but we all know that many drivers will have issues at that corner. It is a very tricky one on this game. Dawidek is within the DRS, but he's not close enough, and he'll be just seeing that lead go away. Dawidek looked like he was going to do a pole to win victory here, but Trinity on the alternate strategy, with some help under virtual safety car and some searingly good pace on the softs, has managed to turn this around, and he is going to give what looks like a win for Red Bull here at the Bahrain International Circuit. Trinity is coming around the final corner now. Dawidek can't do anything about it, and it is TTG Trinity who is going to win the season opener here in PSGL F4. He takes the victory. Dawidek 4 tenths behind in the end. What is going on at the final corner? It looks like DV has taken a position off Rudy. Where's that come from? Latus will take third on the road, but it's going to be Simbalix who takes third place on penalties. DV manages to opportunistically get 4th place from Rudy right at the death. Latus drops to 6th. It will be Philip who takes 7th. It could have been so much more for him. Sadly, Gustav actually takes 7th in the end on penalties. Philip down to 8th. Tiramisu will be 9th, and it will be Ron in the Aston Martin who takes the final point. Let's get a view of our race winner then. From 16th on the grid to 1st. An astonishing performance from Trinity, and he beats Dawidek, who led for so long. But ultimately, when Trinity caught him on a softs, he had no defence to the driver. And a great performance there from the pair of them. Both leading pair can be incredibly proud of their performances tonight. But it is Trinity who takes the 16 points for the win. I'm not sure who got the fastest lap point. It may well have actually been Trinity with the fastest lap point too. It'd be interesting to see. The game gives Trinity driver of the day, and I've got to be honest, I absolutely cannot disagree from 16th on the grid to win. You know, of course, you can argue a virtual safety car gave him a little bit of fortune, but nevertheless, he used it to his full advantage. And even compared to the guys on the same strategy as him, he was just head and shoulders above them. So he deserves all the credit in the world for that one. Trinity, winner, driver of the day, and we'll see in a second if he's got a fastest lap as well. Dewedek will be P2. I think he'll still be very happy with his performance. I don't think he can complain with that one. And Simbalix taking third as well. I think he'll be very happy there. It was a very close podium fight to the end, but it is the Williams driver, Simbalix, that takes P3. And yeah, Trinity does get fastest lap. So Trinity 17 points. What a day for him. You've absolutely got to credit him on that one. Simbalix in third, DV in fourth, Cerudi fifth, Later sixth, Gustav seventh, Philip eighth, Tiramisu ninth, and Ron M in the final points position. Noah and Ares finished, but outside the points. And then of course the 5 DNFs. We've got Shender, Noof, Darragh, Hamilton, and Zarai, who didn't finish the race. So there you go. That was the season opener for F4, and if that's a sign of things to come, we're in for a fantastic season ahead. It's going to be absolutely incredible, and thank you to everyone who tuned in today. It was a lot of fun. Of course, right now we've got some of the other tiers in action on this Mad Monday. We've got F2, F3, and F7. If they've not already finished, they'll be coming to a close as well. And then you can also check out the start of the F1 tier, along with F5, F6, and F8. So much more racing to look forward to tonight. In terms of F4, we'll be back next time, this time next week at Paul Ricard with myself. I look forward to joining you for that one, and we'll be able to see just how it develops following this season opener here. And yeah, so it should be a lot of fun. I'm looking forward to round 2 very much, of course. But we've got plenty more racing to enjoy tonight, so get yourself over to the other streams if you haven't already. It's going to be absolutely fantastic. I've been Jake. I really hope you've enjoyed this. And until next time, I'll catch you all later. Goodbye.